Hey y'all, this is Marley K. Hope everybody is well. Got a couple of stories that I want to share with you, and it is about the Saudis basically ending their deal with the U.S. and the petrodollar, and them joining the Bank of International Settlements. So I'm going to change screens for a couple of seconds. I got three stories that I want to share with you, but basically, um, gas is about to go up, and who knows what is going to happen. This petrodollar deal was, America saying we will protect you if you let us, if you sell gas and let the dollar be the dominant currency. Well, everybody else is basically doing whatever's in their best interest for their nations, and seeing what happened to Russia over the last 2 years has caused a whole lot of nations to make other decisions. So this story is going to be from CoinDesk. The first story is about policy, and basically it just says Saudi Arabia joins the Bank of International Settlements (BIS) project mBridge as a full participant. So the Saudi Central Bank, as they end this agreement with America, and I think that agreement ended on the agreement was signed on June the 6th, and it went into effect on June the 9th. So officially the deal is done. So fuel is going to go up for us. I don't know how soon, but I know gas is getting ready to go up. So it says the Saudi Central Bank joins the central banks of China, Thailand, Hong Kong, and the United Arab Emirates in the project. So y'all know that, everybody is hopping on this digital currency, these pilots, because they're working out the kinks before they pull the rug from under us and everything goes digital. So again, you need to be preparing for what's going to happen in between time. I don't know if it's going to be a clean break or if there's going to be some chaos in between, but we need to be prepared for everything. So it says Saudi Arabia's central bank has joined Project mBridge, a cross-border experiment with central bank digital currencies for international trade as a full participant. The Switzerland-based Bank of International Settlements announced on Wednesday. So y'all already know if it's in Switzerland, everything is working with all the other entities, WHO, WEF, NATO, just everything. So everything is there. All the Children of the Corn stuff is basically coming from the same area: Germany, Switzerland, Denmark. So you already know what time it is. It's Anglo-Saxon stuff. Okay. Project mBridge was launched in 2021 during the pandemic as a collaboration between the BIS innovation arm and the central banks of China, Hong Kong, Thailand, and United Arab Emirates to test the viability of CBDCs for instantaneous cross-border trade and other payments using the project's blockchain, the mBridge ledger. BIS also announced Wednesday that the project has, after 3 years, reached the minimum viable product MVP stage, and has requested private sector financial firms to propose new solutions and use cases that help develop the platform and showcase its potential. So that's just a fancy word, excuse me. MVP is a fancy word for critical mass. They've got enough buy-in to roll it out. to more people, to sell the product to more people or to roll it out to us. In addition to mBridge's 6 full participants, 27 other official entities, including the International Monetary Fund, IMF, the World Bank, and the central banks of countries including Norway, South Korea, and Turkey, have signed on as observers to the project, giving them access to a sandbox of experimentation with the technology. Major global financial institutions, including Goldman Sachs, HSBC, and China's 6 biggest state-owned banks, are also working on the project. So it's a global CBDC project, period. Cross borders means there ain't no more borders. There are no more countries. It's a global financial system. So next, I'm going to move to this other story. So it says Bitcoin price prediction: as US Saudi petrodollar ends, will BTC play a role? That's Bitcoin. And so I've been reading about just following Bitcoin just because it is nerve wracking, but I'm following it because it seems as though there's some speculation that the US will use Bitcoin, which they created. So it makes sense that they would get rid of, with the dollar ending as the global currency, the petrodollar. They would go to Bitcoin because they created that. So it looks like somebody from China made Bitcoin and la la la. But we already know, because if you've been following me, we already did the sleuthing and found out who created the blockchain ledgering technology, the reason for the production in order to collapse a system and go into a new system. So it's basically a scheme. Um, we're in between schemes. One scheme is ending this economic system. It's a scheme. It's ending. And the new economic scheme is coming online. So if you think about everything that they're doing as schemes, you won't get caught up in it. Hopefully, you're not greedy and thinking, oh, I'm going to make a hustle. I'm going to make some money. I'm going to hit a quick lick. I'm going to get this bag. You are participating in schemes of the adversary. Most High did not create us to be doing this type of stuff. So hopefully you have gotten that part of Babylon out of your system. This is not how we are supposed to treat each other. We're not supposed to scam and scheme, and these are all scams and schemes. So I'm talking about them because they're going to impact us. We're collateral damage, but I'm not telling you this in order for you to go and invest or figure out how you're going to make some money, because if you're a true Israelite, we ain't supposed to be doing this. So anyway, this story is from Crypto News, and it came out on today. So it says the recent termination of the US Saudi petrodollar agreement, which nobody's talking about, marks a turning point that could significantly influence Bitcoin's financial trajectory. This development disrupts a decades-long economic standard and introduces the potential for increased currency diversification globally. And they're saying this because everybody's going to digital currencies. So everybody's pretending like they're not on the same page, but everybody on the same page. As nations like Saudi Arabia explore alternatives to the US dollar, including various major currencies and potential digital currencies like Bitcoin, the implications for crypto markets are profound. This shift may lead to heightened inflation and a reduced reliance on traditional fiat, positioning Bitcoin as a beneficial alternative. This evolving landscape fosters a favorable environment for Bitcoin price predictions, as investors might increasingly view it as a hedge against inflation and currency devaluation. So what's interesting is the people that, it's just all crazy. So it's basically Bitcoin is doing, or blockchain technology is doing exactly what the white paper said it would do if they wanted to collapse an economy and move over into something else. So the fact that they are talking about moving this into the place of the dollar is so interesting, but also so sway. Like that's what it's designed to do. It's supposed to do this. So if you don't know the history behind the blockchain technology, where it came from, um, prior to Bitcoin being created, then it just seems like this new thing is cutting edge is the best thing since sliced bread. But if you are a suspicious person like me, you're like, hey, wait a minute. I'm choosing between the devil and the witch, and I don't know. I don't want neither one of them. So anyway, people are going to be really deceived. When they figure out that the same people who created this system created the new system. The old system created the new system. They're going to be very disappointed, and they're going to be disappointed because they are also going to see that they have helped to usher in their own enslavement. What little freedom they did have, they're going to be um, sad when they wake up and find out that they are no longer free. And the thing that they've been doing to us poor people and us black people all over the globe, now they're going to be doing it to white people. And so, they believe in freedom, freedom, freedom. They believe in their freedom, and their freedom is going to be taken away in an instant, and they are going to be pissed. But they can't blame us because we don't have nothing to do with this. How the end of the U.S. Saudi petrodollar deal benefits Bitcoin. So this is how it's going to affect Bitcoin. So this is the recent expiration of the U.S. Saudi petrodollar deal on June the 9th, which was yesterday, heralds a significant shift in global financial dynamics with the potential benefits for Bitcoin. The agreement, which established the U.S. dollar as the primary currency for oil trades with Saudi Arabia, has been a cornerstone of global finance since 1972. That's 52 years, because that's how old I am. Its termination allows Saudi Arabia to diversifying its trade options. It allows Saudi Arabia to diversify its trading options, including the possibility of using various currencies like the Chinese RMB, euros, yen, yuan, and exploring digital currencies such as Bitcoin. Shift in global currency dynamics. This transition from the US dollar could accelerate the move towards other currencies and digital assets. Notably, Saudi Arabia has joined the China-led digital bank currency CBDC project, mBridge. And y'all know China and Russia, or the BRICS nations, is the future of what the global economy will look like, and they will lead it. America will not, because America won't be here. We're going to be gone, collapsed, utterly destroyed. So as you can see, this is the Young Pretenders X post. So it says, Dear at U.S. Embassy UK, please would you give us an update on the June 8th, 1974 U.S. Saudi petrodollar deal, which ended this weekend after you gave 180 days notice last December. I appreciate that to complete at NEOM. You need a much higher oil price via the new gold-backed digital yuan. And so there's a picture of the Saudi prince. I guess that's the prince, shaking hands with Putin. And this is on June the 8th, 2024. I don't know if this picture was on June the 8th, 2024, or if I think this is a recent picture, but if it is from June 8th, 2024, it means it was the day before this took place the day before the agreement ended. And so, again, nobody said anything about it here in our media, which is interesting. So it says this project aims to facilitate cross-border transactions using CBDCs and is compatible with Ethereum virtual machine, suggesting further integration of digital currencies into mainstream finance. So Bitcoin's prospective gains. The shift from the petrodollar could lead to an increased U.S. dollar printing to counterbalance the loss of its global oil trade monopoly, potentially causing inflation. So this is what we have to watch out for. Everything is getting ready to go up for us astronomically this month, and people are going to be having sticker shock. So again, whatever you see, if you need it, you better grab it while it's cheap. It's not just going to be gas though. Everything, is going to go up. The cost of food is going to go up because it costs gas to go in trucks to transport it. Shipping packages is going to go up because FedEx and UPS got to charge more money to bring us our stuff that you order. Amazon stuff, Walmart stuff, Costco, all these Sam's Club, everybody that you order from, stuff is going to go up because everything that transports uses fuel, whether it's an airplane or a truck. Everything is going to go up. Home building supplies will go up because they're transported by truck. Things that are imported that come from ports, 18-wheelers pick them up. Truckers got to foot the bill, got to pay the cost. Gas goes up, they're going to pass that cost on to truck drivers. Truck drivers going to pass that cost off, back to the companies. Or stuff just going to be sitting. There's just a whole lot of things. You're going to find shortages. You're not going to be able to get stuff because people are not going to want to pay for the high price in gas. Like, it's just going to be a ripple effect. But we are, again, the collateral damage. So we must be preparing for everything. So if you have extra money laying around, use it wisely. Use it to get what you need now. And if it's things that you think you may need in the future, this may be the week to do it. Pull the trigger, because next week, I don't know how things are going to increase, but we can look for inflation. And I don't know when it's going to hit us because the money printing may hide it for a little while. But something is coming down the pipe, and we have to try to figure out how we're going to survive and navigate these times. So it says Bitcoin's. Let me go back. So it says rising inflation generally diminishes the value of fiat currencies, making assets like Bitcoin more appealing. Well, Bitcoin ain't going to be more appealing because it's just a scam. It ain't nothing but numbers on a computer screen. You can't put it in your hand. And even if you can put it in your hand, it's like a little card, or like, it's not nothing real. It's just pictures. It's nothing real. Bitcoin's fixed supply and decentralized nature position it as an alternative during economic uncertainties. No, it doesn't. Decentralized, fixed supply. You can't hold in your hand. As traditional fiat currencies potentially devalue due to inflation, Bitcoin could see an increased adoption as a hedge against inflation. Investment shift. The anticipated inflation might drive investors towards alternative assets like Bitcoin, enhancing its value. in long-term appreciation, despite concerns that the average person may not invest in Bitcoin during inflation spikes. The market dynamics could still favor a long-term increase in Bitcoin's value. So anyway, they're bigging up Bitcoin. To me, this is likely where this is how everything was supposed to end anyway. Dollar ends to slide Bitcoin in its position, and it's like nothing ever happened. But the average person can't afford to buy Bitcoin, so it's still a rich man's game. Or whoever was lucky to get in on the early, initial introduction, they may be okay for now. But I still think that they're gonna pull the wool from under our eyes. I'm sorry, the wool. They're pulling the wool over our eyes now, and they're gonna pull a rug from under us when they decide to get rid of Bitcoin and introduce the central bank digital currency. I still think all these little digital currencies are nothing but scams. They don't make no sense. You can't control all the other ones unless they're going to control all of them. Then yeah, you can have multiple currencies because the same people control all of them. So I don't see how this is going to work. But anywho, last story, and then I'm done. This last story is from Birch Gold. And it came out on March the 25th, 2024. So it says Petrodollar Collapse, the invention, rise, and fall of the petrodollar. The word petrodollar doesn't come up as much as it did before the turn of the century. However, it is important to understand the petrodollar system because it explains how the US dollar retained its global reserve currency status even after defaulting on the gold standard. The petrodollar monopoly has ended, leaving the US dollar in an uncertain, didn't say uncertain what. And so if you know who this person here is right here, honey, this is the devil himself. Oh, Henry Kissinger, the late Henry Kissinger. If you don't know who he is and what he's done, you need to go research him. It's not a good person. Anyway, the word petrodollar doesn't come up as much as it did before the turn of the century. However, it's important to understand the petrodollar system because it explains how the, I'm sorry about that. Just restating this. Note that it is interesting but somewhat complex topic, and they have a bunch of stuff here. So, okay, so the term petrodollar emerged in the 1970s to describe the economic relationship between the U.S. and OPEC, which is the organization of petroleum exporting countries, that their oil exports would be priced in and sold exclusively for U.S. dollars. You'll sometimes see the definition like U.S. dollars paid to an oil exporting country. That's technically correct, but ignores historical nuance. So the birth of the petrodollar is basically came in the early 70s when it was the end of the gold standard during the 1973 oil crisis and the formalization of the petrodollar agreement. So history is getting ready to repeat itself. It's been about 50 years. That's, one of the cycles. You can look at 25, 50, 100, 150, 200 years. Then, from there, 100 years. But usually 25, 50, 100 years, you start seeing history repeat itself when it comes to stuff like this. And this is one of those times. Also interesting that, it's supposed to be coming up on a Jubilee year. So a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting things happening as we lead up to 2025. So keep those things in mind because the adversary loves numbers. The end of the Bretton Woods system is from 1971. So the Bretton Woods Agreement signed in 1944. This was around the same time that they created that fake place over there called Israel. and United Nations and all these other groups that now rule the world, that they're trying to move away from and move to something else. Uh, Established monetary management rules for the UK, US, France, Germany, and 40 other countries. Did two crucial things. Member nations pegged their currencies to the US dollar, and guaranteed member nations could exchange dollars for gold at $35 per troy ounce. Essentially, this put everyone on the gold standard. For example, Canada, a member nation, didn't need its own central bank gold reserve because Canada had dollars, and dollars were convertible to gold. Uh, the U.S. had the gold too. At its peak, the U.S. held 651.4 million troy ounces. That's 20,262 metric tons, or 80% of the entire world's gold reserves. The only reason they had that was, well, because one, we did have gold here, but not as much as we had been stealing from other countries. And you have to go back into the history of this nation and then of the European nations to see why they always are trying to colonize the places where the black and brown people are, because those are the places where all the resources are. But the good times never last. Just 27 years later, President Nixon closed the gold window. He broke the promise that dollars would always be convertible for gold. As you might imagine, this decision left a lot of world leaders enraged. And so that is just, think about it, this is a common theme with America. They always break their promises. The Anglo-Saxons will not keep no promises. You cannot trust them. And so when you put it in a practical, natural um, process or thought process, it's natural for you not to trust them, especially not now, as we're in the midst of two economies or two systems, a system's dying and the system is coming online. The way that they're able to keep these lies alive is by exploiting us. So when they exploit us and trick us and hide history from us and deny who we are and deny how they stay afloat, the only way these schemes can stay afloat is by taking from everybody. That's the only way that they can stay rich and we can have illusions that we are rich or striving towards being comfortable or wealthy. We're just working slaves. We're just modern slaves. And they've figured out a way to make everybody think that they're not a slave, which is crazy. But the only way they can keep this illusion alive is by lying to us and then reneging on all their promises. So they always renegotiate. They always break the promises and renegotiate for something else because they can't ever keep up their schemes. Their schemes only last a certain period of time, and then they start unraveling, then they have to do something else. So this is where we are, and this is what always happens. And if anybody had half a brain, they would not deal with these people at all. But we're all somehow stuck with them. The 1973 oil crisis. So, for me, I wouldn't know this because I was one at the time. So there's no way I would know all this. But I'm old enough to know now. And because I understand world history and the economies and how things work, I'm paying attention because this is going to impact us. We're going to be collateral damage, so we need to know about it. So we got to go back in order to see what's coming. So in 1973, in response to the U.S. support for Israel during the Yom Kippur War, OPEC stopped selling oil to the U.S. and allied nations. The oil embargo sent prices skyrocketing. Crude prices doubled. Now, think about this, then quadruple. Israel is in a war right now with Arab nations. So you don't think another oil embargo is coming? This is why I'm talking about this, because this is what we got to get ready for. This immediately after the dollar devaluation, a side effect of removing the dollar from the gold standard created stagflation in the U.S. Same exact shit is happening right now. Excuse my expression, but it's happening now. So history is repeating itself. That's why I'm talking about it. Nixon sent his Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, this devil, to the Middle East, the fake place, the fake Kazar, the fake person who's pretending to be us, uh, went to the Middle East, helped negotiate a ceasefire between Israel and its adversaries. Listen, primarily Syria and Egypt, but 10 other nations, including Saudi Arabia, were involved. Same thing getting ready to happen. OPEC finally lifted the oil embargo in March 1974. Same thing's getting ready to happen. It was quite clear the U.S. desperately needed two things: a friendly Arab nation in the Middle East and a guaranteed source of oil. Same thing getting ready to happen again. 3. The U.S. Saudi Arabia petrodollar agreement. So in 1973, Kissinger brokered a deal with the House of Saud in exchange for advanced military equipment and training, along with security guarantees. We'll go to war if anyone invades you. Saudi Arabia would use the U.S. dollars exclusively for oil pricing and sales. So that if anybody goes to war with you would be Israel. But Israel and America are one and the same, because America basically made Israel and America funded Israel, built it up, gave it its military, gave it everything it needed to be what it is today. And now it's being a menace to those people over there and to the world and to us. You know, you got to ask yourself, why we always got to train our police on how to police us? When you figure out the history of, they know who we are, they're converts, we're the real people, and they got to keep us oppressed, depressed, compressed, suppressed, all the presses, so that they can remain in power and rule over us, and so we won't recognize who we are, awaken and cry out to the Most High, so we can be delivered. They know who we are, they understand our power, and they have this perpetual hatred for us. And these other nations are in conspiracy or confederacy with them to oppress us. So we have to also recognize that, you know, when we're reading these stories, all these people they know who we are, they know where we are, they all doing what they're doing to stay in power, to stay wealthy. They're taking everything from us that the Most High gave to us and using it against us, and treating us, even though we are in captivity, uh, in ways that the Most High's word is strictly against. So this is why all these nations are going to be judged during the end times. But in the meantime, you know, we have to be prepared for what's coming, because they're going to go to war. We're already at war, except for our people don't realize it. But they're coming for us in all sorts of ways, whether it's stagflation, whether it's like physical coming into our communities, whether it's economic collapse, famine, pestilence, plagues. Everything is getting ready to start happening because of the awakening. And so you have to be prepared so that you can try to miss as much of this as possible. So it says, since virtually everyone in the world imported oil from OPEC, everyone in the world now needed dollars. This restored the demand for the dollar in foreign exchange markets. This reinforced the dollar's dominance as global reserve currency. The dollar was no longer backed by gold, but it now had a new lease on life. You could say we went from the gold standard to the black gold standard, which is oil. What is the petrodollar recycling? So it says The Economist, in its first issue of 1974, asked, what are the Arabs going to do with it all? The it was dollars and plenty of them. Henry Kissinger had an idea. There he is sitting again. Ooh, such an evil man. The term petrodollar recycling was coined by Kissinger. He strongly suggested to King Faisal that although Saudi Arabia could charge as much as it wanted for oil, they should invest their surplus revenues in US government debt. That is, if they wanted the U.S. to keep up its end of the security agreements. So here he was changing the agreement again. And it also goes to show you, now this dude is the Khazar. And he is like literally running the government, like making deals. Like it's just wild when you really understand how embedded these people are in every facet of our society. There's a reason why we're in the position we're in and why we can't get out of it. And we can't get out of it because people have hidden their identities and you don't know who's who. Everybody looks white, but there are people, different nations that have hidden their identity amongst even white people, Anglo-Saxons. And the Anglo-Saxons are just like, they don't really get it. They don't really understand. They some of them understand, but most people do not. And they've been trained like us to have a sympathy or compassion for these people when these people are like literally sucking the life out of everything and everybody on the planet. It's like Esau. Anyway, the Saudis earn dollars for selling oil, and used those dollars to finance the U.S. government's deficit spending, which, as you'd expect, made government debts more affordable. The U.S. got its friendly Arab nation an explicit guarantee that there would be global demand for dollars as long as the world ran on oil and a reliable lender for government debt. The ruling of the Saudi Arabia, the ruling family of Saudi Arabia got the world's number one superpower to guarantee their borders. If you ever wonder why the U.S. went to war in Kuwait and Iraq back in 1990-91, it wasn't because of Kuwait's oil exports. It was to make sure that the Iraqis didn't violate their 504-mile border with Saudi Arabia. We kept up our end of the deal. These protesters, for example, missed the point. No blood for oil. No, they didn't miss the point. Those 147 U.S. troops killed in action and hundreds more wounded weren't bleeding for oil. They went to war to preserve the dollar's role as global reserve currency, whether they knew it or not. So here it is, these rich people on this site are talking about people dying for a global reserve currency, for money, not for their own people, not for uh, the actual country's um, safety and security, for money. They went to war to preserve the dollar's role as global reserve currency. That's what you'd be going to war for anyway. That's why I always tell people, don't be sending your kids off to the military. It's the worst thing you could do. I don't care what you need. You find another way. But fighting these wars for these billionaires and trillionaires and people who sit behind the scenes and make up all these rules and tell us all these lies, and then you find out, 50 years later, oh, this what y'all was fighting for money? This is why you can't trust your enemy. The end of the petrodollar. So the petrodollar monopoly on OPEC oil lasted longer than the Bretton Woods Agreement. After 45 years, Saudi Arabia broke the deal in 2018. And that was the first year that Saudi Arabia sold oil in another currency. Is the petrodollar dead? Well, not exactly. OPEC nations still accept dollars for oil, just not exclusively. Ask instead, is the petrodollar in trouble? Yes, absolutely. The monopoly on petrodollars for oil was broken relatively recently. So the birth of the petro yuan. So in 2022, Chinese leader Xi Jinping pledged to purchase more oil and gas from the Gulf and also encouraged states in the region to conduct energy sales in the Chinese yuan. First, simply consider the U.S. is now a net exporter of oil. We don't just depend so much on OPEC generally or Saudi Arabia specifically for our energy needs. While the U.S. economy has moved on, Saudi Arabia really hasn't. So in 2022, Saudi Arabia's top 5 exports were crude oil, refined petroleum, 2 kinds of plastic, and 1 industrial chemical. All 5 of Saudi Arabia's major exports come out of the ground, either directly or indirectly. Even though their products haven't changed, their customers have. As of 2022, Saudi Arabia's top 5 buyers, listen to this: 1, China; 2, India; 3, Japan; 4, South Korea; and 5, the United States. So all Asian nations. China has replaced the U.S. as the Saudis' number 1 customer. And when China offered to pay for oil in yuan instead of dollars, Saudi Arabia agreed. The petro yuan was born. So they've been planning this for a long time. So you remember I was telling y'all about BRICS. That's about the time I started talking about it. And everybody's like, oh, it's not going to be nothing. Oh, it's just, it was already around for like almost 10 years when I started talking about it. But they were making significant moves to undermine the U.S. and collapse the global economy for whatever reason. I'm not taking sides, but I'm just sharing. This is how the thing went. So it says, to be fair, the diplomatic relationship between Saudi Arabia and the U.S. has been rather strained since September the 11th, 2001. 15 of the 19 Al-Qaeda hijackers were Saudi citizens. When the fracking boom swept the U.S. and we started exporting oil, we became competitors in the global oil market. We believe the Saudis backed the bad guys in both. Oh, here we go with this bull crap. Ain't no such thing. I ain't reading about backing nobody in wars, whatever. So it's the corn nothing because they know everything. It says no, immediately no, not immediately no. So this is the majority of the international trade still happens in U.S. dollars. The Petro Yuan agreement with China gives the nation a sort of insurance policy against dollar weaponization efforts like they did with Russia. In that sense, the Petro Yuan deal is more of an insurance plan. But I feel as though a lot of stuff is getting ready to happen. So I'm going to skip down to BRICS. So it says BRICS and the petrodollar. So in 2023, BRICS nations signed a flurry of bilateral trade agreements. Talk of de-dollarization among BRICS was in the air. BRICS nations are putting together a shared international currency, like the euro, called the R5. The currency would be ideal for international trade. It could easily bypass the dollar's global reserve status with cumbersome bilateral trade agreements. All 5 BRICS members nations are net exporters, which gives them the power to sell their products in whatever currency they want. An international currency could be allowed to float, avoiding China's worries about an overvalued yuan. The R5 would effectively bypass the dollar, solving Russia's problems with sanctions. Although the R5 is still in development, in October 2023, the digital BRICS Pay system has created an international network. So again, here's this structure, these pieces of the beast infrastructure, no matter how they fluff it up in these articles. This is going to be the no buy, no sell system. You see it already shaping up. Even nations not going to be able to buy or sell unless they participate in this system. Now, all BRICS needs to permanently dethrone the petrodollar is a shared currency, and they're at work on that. So I anticipate this will be happening very soon. And so this is why we need to be prepared here in the US and in white Western nations, because you're going to be dealing with inflation. You're going to be dealing with shortages because companies are not going to want to pay for fuel cost and other costs associated with inflation. So it's just, we got a lot of things to deal with. But this is really important for us to come to terms with, and again, try to prepare, buy things that you need, tangible things, even if it's just, buying gas, putting in gas cans and storing it, and get you some fuel treatment to pour into it, so to stabilize it and to help keep the water out of it during the summer months. Make sure it's stored in a nice, safe place with open ventilation, not close to your house, not close to electrical outlets where things can spark fire or explosions. But you need to try to do something to counter what's coming. Don't know when it's coming, don't know when it's going to happen. It could happen suddenly, it could, be a little trickle effect, but things are going to start getting more expensive quickly because of all these agreements that are happening. And our media is not really talking about it because it's really kind of humiliating for them. But for everybody else, it's like, yay, we breaking free of Babylon. So understand what's happening and move accordingly, people. Move accordingly. You are going to protect yourself. Nobody else is going to protect you. You don't have anybody else. Nobody cares about you except for you and the people in your circle, your family, maybe. But nobody cares about you. This country is done. You've been sold out. You've been tricked. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. We all have. We're living in a nightmare. Ain't no dreams here, only nightmares. But with the Most High, all things are possible. Let us pray that no weapons they form against us will prosper, and that we're covered and protected during whatever is getting ready to come. All right, this is Marley K. Love y'all, and I'm out.